The year was 1943, and the North African theater thrummed with the metallic heartbeat of total war. Salak Airfield, officially Salak Main, a 6,000-foot pierced steel plank runway hacked from the Jebel Akhdar escarpment 30 miles southeast of Benghazi, reeked of high-octane avgas, camel dung, and the sharp tang of cordite from yesterday's strafing run. Hangars were half-collapsed Italian relics, their corrugated roofs flapping like loose tin in the Khamsin wind. At 1,400 hours on April 4, 25 consolidated B-24 CO Liberators of the 376th Bomb Group, heavy, call sign Liberandos, lined the perimeter track in 2 staggered boxes. Ground crews in sweat-soaked herringbone twill wrestled 500-pound M43 general-purpose bombs up the catwalks, each stamped with chalked slogans, "Regards to Tojo, Kiss for Eva." Among the silver giants stood Lady Be Good, factory fresh from Willow Run Lot 301, her aluminum skin still bearing the faint ghost of inspection stamps, accepted March 24, 43, Wright Field. A tech rep from Consolidated had signed off on her ferry flight across the South Atlantic, Ascension Island, Natal, Marrakesh, landing at Salak with only 14.2 hours on the Hobbs meter. Her nose art, painted the night before by Corporal Anthony Tony Rizzo of the 514th Squadron sheet metal shop, was pure 1940s cheesecake, a platinum blonde in a fire engine red satin gown slit to the hip, one leg kicked high, a 250-pounder balanced on her gartered thigh. The name Lady Be Good was lettered in Broadway script white with a black drop shadow, the B curling into a treble clef, Rizzo's tribute to his mother's favorite Gershwin standard. The crew had arrived via C-54 from Payne Field, Cairo, on March 26, still clutching duffel bags stenciled with stateside APO numbers. They drew Lady Be Good by lottery. The only other rookie crew in the squadron had pulled the battle-scarred Wongo Wongo, already on her 27th mission and leaking hydraulic fluid like a sieve. Pilot First Lieutenant William Joseph Hatton, 22, from Whitmoyer, Virginia, population 312, had soloed a Piper Cub at 16 on his uncle's tobacco farm. His logbook showed 3:12:40 total time, 42:10 in type, barely above the 35-hour minimum for combat lead. He wore a crushed officer's cap at a rakish tilt and kept a lucky silver dollar taped inside his flight jacket. Co-pilot Second Lieutenant Robert Francis Toner, 24, Oil City, Pennsylvania, was the navigator by default. His celestial navigation grades at San Marcos AAF had topped the class, but he'd never shot a sun line over water. He carried a Weems plotter, an E-6B whiz wheel, and a battered Mark 7 sextant in a canvas case monogrammed RFT Bombardier. Second Lieutenant John Stanley Waravka, 26, Chicago, had worked the Norden bomb site at Midland AAF until he could drop a pickle barrel from 20,000 feet in 40-knot crosswinds. His brother Lloyd, a tail gunner in the 512th, had sent a telegram, "Don't scratch the paint, kid." Flight Engineer Second Lieutenant D.P.D. Hayes, 20, Lubbock, Texas, knew every bleed air valve on the R-1830-43 Twin Wasps. He could diagnose a mag drop by ear alone. The enlisted gunners were the squadron's pulse. Technical Sergeant Harold John Ripslinger, 26, Shearing, Wisconsin, had milked 120 Holsteins before dawn every morning since age 10. His hands could span an octave on a waist gun charging handle. Technical Sergeant Robert Eugene Lamotte, 20, Lake Linden, Michigan, wrote poetry on ration cards and mailed pressed Edelweiss to his fiancée in every V-mail. Staff Sergeant Guy Elias Shelley, 20, Salt Lake City, carried a pocketbook of Mormon bound in calfskin, its pages annotated in red pencil. Staff Sergeant Vernon Lee Moore, 22, New Boston, Ohio, had a laugh like a .50 cal stuttering and a harmonica that turned Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy into a waist gunner anthem. Staff Sergeant Samuel Raymond Adams, 19, Eunice, Louisiana, still had acne and a voice that cracked on the intercom. The crew called him Rookie until he outshot them all on the skeet range with a borrowed M1 Garand. At 14:37 local, the first B-24, Honky Tonk Gal, thundered down the PSP, oleos compressing, sandblast scouring the paint. Lady Be Good was dead last, brakes released at 14:50. Hatton advanced the 4 throttles to 45 inches manifold, turbo-superchargers whining to 28,000 revolutions per minute. The tail lifted at 92 knots. At 118, the mains unstuck with a lurch that rattled dental fillings. Gear up, flaps 10 degrees, climb power 2,400 revolutions per minute per 38 inches. Formation assembly over the Gulf of Sidra took 22 minutes. Lady Be Good slotted into the low element, tail end Charlie, call sign, King 9. The route was 412 nautical miles to Naples, departure fix over Zuwara, checkpoint over Pantelleria, initial point at Ischia. Altitude 21,500 feet, true airspeed 182 knots, fuel burn 420 gallons per hour. Over the target at 1712, flak was moderate but accurate. Wongo Wongo took a 20 mm through the bomb bay and aborted to Malta trailing smoke. Lady Be Good's turbo on number 3 engine began surging at 1703, manifold pressure oscillated between 29 and 34 inches. Hatton feathered it at 1709, reducing speed to 158 knots. At 1742, 30 nautical miles short of the IP, he ordered Waravka to salvo the entire load, 16 500-pounders, into the Tyrrhenian Sea. The plane leapt upward 800 feet as 8,000 pounds vanished in white geysers. Return leg, 1,200 gallons remaining, 400 miles to Salak, tailwind 12 knots. Sunset at 1827 painted the undercast blood orange. By 1915, a solid deck at 8,000 feet erased the horizon. Stars were occulted by cirrostratus. The radio compass hunted 180 degrees reciprocal bearings. Static from the morning sandstorm had magnetized the loop antenna. At 23:57, Hatton transmitted on 6,440 kHz. King 9 to playground, request QDM, over. Salak Tower fired green pyrotechnics and swept the runway with 24-inch carbon arc searchlights, but the bomber was already 120 miles southeast, flying 150 degrees magnetic at 4,000 feet on 3 engines. Fuel state at 0.46, 180 gallons total, 38 minutes endurance. Number 2 engine backfired at 103, then quit. At 112, number 1 sputtered dry. Hatton's voice on intercom was steady, altitude 3,800, airspeed 135. Prepare to abandon. Jump on my mark, 3, 2, 1, mark. The bailout bell clanged twice. Toner clipped his logbook inside his A4 suit. They exited via the bomb bay catwalk, Hatton last, pulling the static line as he rolled. The lady flew on, autopilot locked, for 16.2 statute miles. At 129 she struck a low dune at 102 miles per hour, 26 degrees 56.3 foot N, 24 degrees 01.7 E. The impact sheared the bomb bay bulkhead at station 5.0, folded the starboard wing at the nacelle, and spun the fuselage 180 degrees before it settled tail first into a 12-foot drift. No fire, fuel tanks had run bone dry. The desert night was 39 degrees Fahrenheit, wind 6 knots from 320 degrees, visibility unlimited under a 38% waxing moon that rose at 147. Dawn on April 5 broke at 5:46 local, temperature 42 degrees Fahrenheit, dew point -12 degrees Fahrenheit. 8 parachutes lay in a 2.8-mile ellipse centered on 27 degrees 04.2 foot N, 23 degrees 45.1 E, gravel Sarir fringed by 280-foot Barkhan dunes migrating southeast at 22 meters per year. Waravka's canopy had streamer collapsed. He struck headfirst at 87 miles per hour, cervical vertebrae C2, C4 pulverized, instantaneous death. The survivors converged on 3 short whistle blasts, standard bailout signal. Inventory at 6:30, 8 canteens, 4 pints each, 1.5 pints already consumed in flight, 2.45 M1911A1 pistols, 7 rounds each, 8 ration dinner units, cheese, crackers, lemon powder, 4 and M2 signal mirrors, 1 SCR 578 Gibson Girl radio, battery voltage 1.2 volts, dead, 9 British Silk escape maps, scale 1 to 1, 000000, Libya sheet ending at 25 degrees north, 1 aircraft emergency water tank, 1.5 gallons, filled from the lady's 25-gallon potable reservoir. They brewed coffee on a single Tommy cooker using 100 LL avgas siphoned from a flare chute, passing the tin cup in order of rank, Hatton last. They calculated Salak at 15 to 20 statute miles due north, based on Hatton's last DR plot before bailout. In reality, the airfield was 398 statute miles bearing 332 degrees true, and the lady's wreck lay 16.1 miles bearing 178 degrees from their LZ. At 7:15 they stepped off in column of twos, Hatton on point with the end 5740 compass, deviation card missing, Toner navigating with a march table, Shelley and Moore dragging a travois of spare Type A, 3 parachutes for shade. Footing alternated between fist-sized basalt gravel that rolled like ball bearings and feather sand that sucked 18 inches per step. By 10 o'clock the mercury hit 98 degrees Fahrenheit, heat shimmer turned the horizon into molten glass. They rigged a 6 by 8 foot parachute awning on 2 broken radio masts, crawling beneath during the 13 to 1500 hours furnace peak, shade temperature 118 degrees Fahrenheit, emerging at 1600 hours when shadows stretched to 20 feet. Water discipline, 1 fluid ounce every 30 minutes, held sublingually 20 seconds to stimulate saliva. They marked progress with stone cairns every 1,000 yards, arrows scratched with bayonets pointing 150 degrees magnetic, their north. Toner's log, written in indelible pencil on FAA Form 1 flight plan carbons. Day 1, April 5th, landed okay except John. Hot. Thirsty. Headed N, 8.2 miles. Mirage Lake 2 miles E. Day 2, April 6th, lips split. Shelley hallucinating, sees mother waving. Gave him my share. 13.7 miles. Day 3, April 7th, water 6 ounces per man. Boots blister. Vultures 12 o'clock high. 11.9 miles. Day 4, April 8th, haze and rips down at 26 miles. Refused litter. Left 1 canteen, 4 crackers. Note, tell Ma we love her. 9.1 miles. Day 5, April 9th, Shelley and Moore down at 51 miles. Silk tent. Tin note fused shut. 8.8 miles. Day 6, April 10th, legs wood. Mirage voices, Moore calling, Toner, wait up. 9.3 miles. Day 7, April 11th, Adams carrying compass. Psalms 23 on lips. 8.7 miles. Day 8, April 12th, last drop 0400, 78 miles total. All but finished. God keep the United States. Autopsies at Wheelus AFB Mortuary, May 1960, bodies desiccated to 41 to 48 pounds, skin tanned to rawhide, corneas opaque, kidneys reduced to 12 grams each. Stomach contents, 3 grams ration cheese, 1 Scarabaeus sacer beetle, ingested live, trace lemon powder. Blood chemistry, sodium 182 milliequivalent/L, hematocrit 72%. No sand in trachea, death by hypovolemic shock, not suffocation. Ripslinger's right boot sole worn through to sock, Hatton's dog tags fused to sternum by sweat salts. 16 years dissolved. On November 8, 1958, Darcy Exploration DC, 3GMUH, pilot Gordon Bowerman, banked over the Calancio Sarir at 1,200 feet AGL. Co-pilot David Bellamy spotted sunlight flashing off aluminum, looks like a bloody great bird down there. Ground survey March 12, 1959, confirmed Lady Be Good at 26 degrees 56.3 foot N, 24 degrees 01.7 B, 440 statute miles from Salak, 202 miles beyond the last charted well at Burzelton. The wreck was a time capsule, starboard wing folded at WS-92, port wingtip proud, props feathered 11-1-1-11 o'clock, bomb bay doors yawning, .50 caliber M2 in tail turret cycled and fired on third trigger pull, case ejected 14 feet, thermos of coffee still 42 degrees Fahrenheit, desert nights had preserved it, unopened box of Lucky Strike greens. Toner's logbook wedged behind co-pilot seat, pages fluttering. Operation Scorpion, February-August 1960, MAT C-47s, 1st Army Graves Registration Company, 12 Bedouin Camel Scouts. February 27, Hayes and Ripslinger, 26.1 miles out, curled beneath parachute ribcage, dog tags glinting. March 12, Shelley and Moore, 51.4 miles, tin can notes fused shut by 17 years of heat. May 9, main group at 78.2 miles, Hatton's A2 jacket still zipped, Toner's log clutched like a hymnal, Adams 3.2 miles farther with compass in one hand, single .45 round in the other. Lamott found August 11, half buried by a 1960 dune migration. Waravka's bones, scattered by striped hyenas, recovered June 1961, identified by Lane Tech class ring, size 9. The Lady yielded engineering gold, engine spun to 2,800 revolutions per minute on test stands at Kelly AFB, piston still within .002-inch tolerance, data fed Project Apollo's lunar rover corrosion specs. Tail turret plexiglass shard resides in the National Museum of the USAF, a 13-foot propeller blade, bent like a Bedouin scimitar, stands in Lake Linden Veterans Park. A stained glass window in St. Anne's Chapel, Navarre, Florida, depicts 9 angels descending over golden dunes, each bearing a crewman's name. The story birthed Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, King 9 Will Not Return, aired September 30, 1960, where Captain James Embry finds his mummified crew saluting in the sand, and the 1970 CBS movie Soul Survivor, with Richard Basehart as a general haunted by walking corpses whispering, "Water, water." Yet the truest memorial is the desert itself. On windless nights, Bedouin trackers from the Zawaya tribe swear they hear the faint clatter of dog tags in the dunes, 9 young voices refusing to fade. The Army's 1961 Field Manual 21-76 now cites Hatton's rule, in iron oxide sand, trust the back azimuth of your shadow at local apparent noon, not a compass fooled by local variation. Silk escape maps were reprinted with a 200-mile Sahara extension. And every April 4th, at the cracked asphalt of Salak, now a ghost field of camel thorn and rusted Nissen huts, the wind still whistles through imaginary bomb racks, as if Lady Be Good is taxiing one last time, her crew forever 22, forever walking north beneath a sun that never sets on their legend.